Well, welcome everyone. Thank you for being here despite it being the last session, the last day, and the first session in the last day. I apologize for my voice. Welcome to our panel called Agrobiodiverse Agroecology in Building Climate Resilience, Prospects and Challenges. We will kick off the session by showing a quick 3-minute video to showcase the work that the South Asian Forum for Environment is doing in India. So please, if you could run the video.
এটা তো জৈব সার দিয়ে তৈরি, যার জন্য এটা কোনো সাইড এফেক্ট নেই।
এই চালটা খুব সুস্বাদু লাগবে, খেতেও খুব ভালো লাগবে।
The Sundarbans, a Ramsar-recognized World Heritage Site, is a marvel of nature. Yet the settlements and agricultural systems built by blocking the natural river floodplains face relentless natural disasters almost every year. Consequently, the farmlands turn saline, threatening the very livelihoods of its people.
This is a rice cafeteria in the deltaic Sundarbans of West Bengal. We at South Asian Forum for Environment, we are conserving the local land races of rice, which are salt tolerant aromatic rice in Sundarbans in this center. And we have around 54 land races of rice conserved over here, which are definitely salt tolerant, and during the cyclones we find that they are flood resistant also.
দুধেশ্বর ধানটা বা মুগি ধান বা রাজপাঁজর বা ভুড়িয়া এসব ধানগুলো কোনো সার লাগে না।
প্রকৃতি থেকে এই জাতগুলো এসছে, এগুলো কোনো মানুষের তৈরি জাত নয়, যেগুলোকে আমরা আধুনিক জাত হিসাবে চাষ করি, হাইল্যান্ড বলে, যেগুলোতে অধিক ফলন দেয়। এই সমস্ত জাতগুলো কিন্তু নোনা সহ্য করতে পারে না, ঝড় বর্ষা সহ্য করতে পারে না।
50টা ধানের মধ্যে বেশ কিছু নোনা সহনশীল ধান এবং নানান পর্যায়ের নোনা সহনশীল ধান রয়েছে এবং বেশ কিছু স্থানীয় অন্যান্য ধান রয়েছে।
Under the visionary leadership of Dr. Deepayan Dey, the South Asian Forum for Environment embarked on a mission to find solutions.
So herein we have trained more than 200 community farmers who are working with us to conserve and preserve these rice varieties, and they have been given the seeds for developing a seed resilient village or simply a seed village, so that the scarcity of the seeds are not there. More importantly, the capacity building of these farmers that has been done through traditional knowledge as well as scientific knowledge.
As the sun sets over these ancient fields, it lights the hope forward. Indigenous rice varieties symbolize our heritage, strength and commitment to a sustainable future. By supporting local farmers and preserving these traditional grains, we safeguard biodiversity and ensure that the legacy of our land continues to thrive. Together, we can nurture the seeds of hope, cherishing our rich diversity and protecting the future of our food. Let us sow the seeds of change, one grain at a time.
Okay, so having set the tone for the session, in this session we're going to explore the importance of agrobiodiversity for the future of food security. Agrobiodiversity is not recognized enough as a means to adapt to climate change, and the financial gap to meet all of the biodiversity targets until 2030 are set by the Aichi Protocol, that are set as part of the Aichi Protocol is $700 billion. However, biodiverse agroecology will be at the center of the conversation at COP29. Through the negotiated financial mechanisms, food security and biodiversity conservation, together with indigenous and farming communities, should gain the protagonism that they deserve. In that context, while recognizing the challenges presented by the lack of built capacities in infrastructure, deficiencies to assess biodiversity credits, and the lack of innovation of financial markets and frameworks for conservation, this session will focus on the potential of mainstreaming agroecology at local level as a means to benefit communities and promote biodiversity conservation. In that sense, our first speaker is Dr. Deepayan Day, an environmental technologist with 30 years of experience in locally led adaptation and chair of the South Asian Forum for Environment. He will tell us about the potential of local communities and agroecology in conserving biodiversity.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Can we have the first presentation, please? Yeah. So, biodiverse agroecology. Maybe I will come a little up so that I can see this. Biodiverse agroecology in building climate resilience, its prospects and challenges. So, we have been talking a lot about biodiversity conservation. And we are almost at the end of a session which was very important. Two important things I would like to highlight from this. One is, have we talked about agrobiodiversity at length in this particular session of COP16? And the second thing is, if we are talking about Target 18, sustainable agriculture, are we talking about agroecology or regenerative farming? So with that, I would like to emphasize that why these two topics are not getting enough of a vision, enough of a space in our discussion. There are certain bottlenecks, certain trade-offs. We'll discuss that. Next slide, please. So conventional farming and agrobiodiversity conservation, what's the trade-off? We can just identify three very important aspects. One is the loss of local varieties, land races, and nutritive crops. Now, if we see IPBES report 2019, we find that 75% of the agrogenetic diversity is lost. Why this is lost? Is it climate change or is it anthropogenic pressure? I think anthropogenic pressure, the pressure of the human development, is strategically putting this agrobiodiversity at risk. We will explain why. The second important thing is diminishing crop resilience and disease resistance in high-yielding varieties. We are getting good lot of production, but are they resistant to diseases? We have seen one pandemic, and we do not know in the food system itself if there is another pandemic in the crops. Are we be equally safe in that reason? And lastly, loss of soil function. See, we put a lot of nutrient in the field for the plant, but do we care about the health of the soil? The map on the right side you will find poverty and loss of biodiversity. See, the red part is the poverty prone area, which is also an area for more loss of biodiversity. More bluish we go, it's little better, and the greener parts are better. So you can see the developing global south is actually at risk. This is what I wanted to point out, that the pressure on the population is the pressure on agrobiodiversity. Next slide, please. So now the synergies. When we talk about agrobiodiversity conservation, there are few things which are common. Number one is the scope of integrating farming, fisheries, and livestock together. Number two is the technological improvisation. we can talk about hydroponics, aeroponics, and a lot of modern technologies, which is there in, which helps in agrobiodiversity conservation as well as the farming process. And finally, the food security. Ultimate thing is to secure food, nutrition, and livelihood. So these are the synergistic points. But we have certain doorstep challenges. Before that, I would just like to show you a small infograph that globally identified plant species is 390,000, of which 5538 species, only 5538 species are for food. And see how much we use out of that. Only 3 crops, maize, rice, and wheat, is giving the entire human energy. Only 3 crops. So we are dependent so much on that. And another 12 crops, they are giving the other food part. So how much underutilized is the agrobiodiversity? So the first thing that comes, why it is underutilized? Because there is no seed bank with us. Seed sovereignty, seed sufficiency at the village level, at the rural level is not there. Number 2 is integrated pest management regime is not there. When you try out something which is very diverse, it is first on the attack of the insects and the pests. So that's a challenge. Then place-based post-harvest management. When to harvest it, when to market it, what should be the crop cycle, that type of a value chain is missing. So these leads to finally a deterioration in the entire agrobiodiversity. Definitely supply side value chains like storage, these are having very short shelf life, and market mobility, that is the demand supply flusk, like what is in the demand in the market, whether it has the growth period or not. And when there is a heavy growth, whether there is a demand in the market or not. We don't discuss these points. And definitely there is a financial risk. Like you grow, but you don't get a market. You have a market, you don't have a product. How do you match these two things? So these are some of the important challenges that we have. And what is the solution then? The only solution that exists with us is agroecology, and that is the panacea for the future of food. Now, when we talk about agroecology, certain things definitely come out that helps us with this type of a problematic scenario. The first one is the circular design approach. It has a low input and high output game plan. So it is circular. Just one example, the agro-west in South Asia, or even in Southeast Asia, Philippines also. I think agro-west is a tremendous problem. And finally, burning out the agro-west, releases a lot of air pollutants, which is again adverse for the health. Now, this can be recycled to increase the soil function in nature. We also have integrated and adaptive farming, diversified cropping. The crop cycle can be planned in such a way that when the demand comes in, we have the supply side done. Or we can sequence it in a way when there is severe, climate disturbances, we have a crop in the field which is resilient. So this is another thing. The other points are, we have innovations. See, 2 innovations I have given here. One is the aeroponics. Even if it is a, 50-storied building, on the top of that building, you can have the plants grown. And just, it is a simple technology. In Bangladesh and as well in India, we are practicing now a system of farming which we say as float farming. Say the farmland is inundated and due to, sea level rise or due to storm, a lot of water comes up. And this water is stagnant on the field, compromises the entire field productivity. On that water, we prepare such floats made up of bamboo rafts, and we practice regenerative agrofarming. So that helps the food security, that helps the livelihood. And I'm really, proud to say that this particular project, when we piloted, we got a very big support from PwC. And this project has come up in such a big way that Jeff Global Environmental Facility has, selected this project to scale up in whole of South Asia. So this is the success story of agroecology. And this technological improvisation gives the climate immunity, rather the climate preparedness. What happens next is it's a shared responsibility. It's a collective farming. So that is again the helpful part of agroecology, where all are united, the risk is spreaded, and the responsibilities are shared. So if we come to a point,
Just
sorry,
for the
just 1
spirit of
second.
time.
Yeah. This is the model where we are going to finalize. You can have a look in this. Just it's a collection of efforts that ultimately goes to a sustainable system or target 18. So I think that's the idea we are looking forward to. It's agroecology, and this is how we can save both agrobiodiversity and secure our food for the future. Thank you. Gracias.
Thank you, Dipayan. And speaking of the collective responsibilities, we often hear that one challenge for agroecology are markets. And in that sense, we have our second speaker, Anaí Cabero from Bolivia, from Cosecha Colectiva, the head of agroecology. And she's going to show us how agroecology can be approached from the side of consumption.
Yes. Thank you. So the second presentation, please. Yes. Okay, first I'm going to start with some facts from Bolivia. In Bolivia, 70% of the rural population dedicates to agriculture as their main livelihood, and also agriculture currently contributes to the 13% of the gross domestic product, GDP. And in that context, it's creating a new initiative that is being developed to promote agroecology. The next one. Oh. I have this. Okay. Okay, so now this is the name of a strategy that is being developed, National Agroecology Strategy, that it's a general framework to reinforce and to promote food systems. And it's very interesting because it's creating with this methodology that is bottom to up, because includes civil society. No? It's a multi-actor process. It's being promoted by the Ministry of Rural Development and Lands, but the creation of this strategy includes producers, includes civil society, and also many actors of the food systems. Then these are like the objectives, that is food security, climate resilience, thank you, biodiversity, water management, and efficient use, soil protection. So this is very important because it doesn't have a focus only on production, but it has a systemic approach. This is the process of the creation of this strategy. So it started on July 2024, and now they created the baseline with all the actors, and it's going to be presented at 25 February, and it's going to be validated also with this multi-actor process. And this is very important because it's not going to be just a paper, a nice paper. It's going to be adapted to the reality because it's a collective creation. Okay. Yes, so this is what is going on with agroecology and policy in Bolivia. And now I'm going to talk about agroecology food supplies, some examples that are existing in La Paz, Bolivia. This is the first one that is called Ecotambo, that you can buy agroecology food. It's a platform that you can order food from like close communities. And I put that image that you can see a QR code where when you buy that food, it comes with a paper and you can scan it and see the community and the people that is behind your food. It's like like bring humanity in the food system. This is another example of agroecology food supply, a short food supply that is very important to get close producers with consumers. It's called Swarm because it has a horizontal organization. And is here in this market, it's a permanent market where entrepreneurs, startups, yes, they try to connect directly with producers, especially agroecology producers, and make a transformation with that food to add some value. This is another example of agroecology food supplies that are events that promote short food supply chain. We call it in Spanish circuitos cortos regenerativos. And this event is called Canasta Diversa. And as you can see in this picture, the food is in a pedestal because also we wanted to show that food is also a piece of art. No? Put that in the center. This also is an example of how you can bring closer producers to consumers. And this short food supplies change has impacts not only like environmental, also economic, but social, because consumers knows producers and get like a closer relationship, sorry. Okay, so to finish, as Cosecha Colectiva, we saw that non-profit organizations can improve food systems and can improve also agroecology, but by connecting the different organizations from the food systems, like producers with people that are processing food, also connecting consumers with producers, but in these relationships, we need the government in the middle. No, we need that the government regulates, like promotes agroecology, but also regulates agribusiness. Also, how do you say, high processed food, because it's not only important that government promote agroecology, but also regulate agribusiness. So we believe that by connecting the different actors of the system, the food systems, we can make social incidents for political incidents. Okay, so I finish with this.
Thank you, Nay. Of course, we cannot speak. We cannot speak of agroecology as a strategy for biodiversity conservation if we don't speak of the supply chains and consumers. So this was very helpful. With that, I would like to invite our panel. I would like to invite Pavel Partha from the Bangladesh Resource Center for Indigenous Knowledge, PARSIC. I would like to invite Evans Mouswahini of the Association of Social Entrepreneurs in Vihiga and the Lake Region Food Systems Network. And I would like to invite Melanie Velasquez, who does environmental education in the Center for Marine Justice in Barranquilla, here in Colombia. I will start with you, Pavel. I would like you to reply to a question in 4 minutes. And the question we would like you to address is, can you describe what are the local value chains in agroecological systems for agrobiodiversity conservation in your context? And where do you see the challenges?
Okay, thank you, Natalia, and thanks, Dipan, for this presentation, and I'm here also. So it is a very significant and very effective thought on the value chain when we are talking on the agroecology in the agri-food system. So hope you know that in the not in the Bangladesh, on the, also in the global south, the new generation, they are not interested to stay with the agriculture. They are not interested to stay in the farming. So it can be the good option if the value chain, if we include the our traditional indigenous knowledge and the local knowledge, it could be a very good clue and the entry point. And it can be included in the national targets of the biodiversity, so we call the NBSAPs, and also it could be make the different kind of the value chain, so added the more if we include the traditional indigenous knowledge, and also if we recognize the traditional indigenous knowledge that belong to our food and the agri-food system. And also we need to conserve the agro-biodiversity and the local biodiversity and also the genetic resources. It could be the another value, added the another values in our agri-food system. And my last point is from our perspective, hope you know that there are the lots of food, say, connected with the geographical indication, we call the country of origin. But if we not the debate on the country of origin, but if we just talking on the geographical indication, so it can be the new value chains add in our agri-food system, which can strengthen the agroecology movement. Thank you, Natalia.
Okay, thank you. And linked to that, we have Melanie, who is an expert in oceans. We want to make the connection between oceans and agroecology. So my question for you is, how do you see the prospects of conserving biodiversity in local fisheries, and how can they relate to agroecological systems?
Okay. Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks, Natalia, for the introduction, and thanks, Pavel, for inviting me to this panel. For agroecology is a very important concept, and we have how do you say, is like a lack in the concept, because when you hear the word agro, you don't associate the word with fishers or fishing communities. Yeah. I think the word agro is more green, but I'm here for remind you that the nature is blue. It's also blue. And we work with fishing communities, and they are related with ecology. With ecology, yes. Because they have a lot of projects that protect the ecology. We work with them about resilience areas, and we have examples with women women from Pacific Colombian region, and they work with piangua. I don't know if you know the piangua is a kind of mollusk, and they respect the cycle of reproduction of this species because they know and they understand what important is this species for their family and their communities. And an important thing that I can highlight in this moment is the fishing communities are hold their rights. So in our organization, we are work for the concept, and we propose this concept in different reports, like to United Nations, international courts, and advisory opinions process. So it's important for us that the fishing communities can be can, can be a resilient communities into the agroecology concept.
Thank you, Melanie. That was very helpful. And Evans, a question for you. As an activist, how do you see the transformational potential of agroecology in the African context?
Yeah, thank you very much for that question. Yeah, indeed, the agroecology movement is a movement that requires people with passion, people with courage, because ideally, as we enhance the agroecology movement, we are actually taking power from the industry players and taking this power to the people. And as you would know, power is always sweet. And that therefore then requires a lot of activism, a lot of courage, a lot of information gathering, so that whatever arguments you're putting out there are arguments that are supported with evidence. And therefore for me, yes, indeed, I accept that the agroecology movement can greatly benefit from activism, but that should be activism that is guided by information and adequate evidence, so that as we make the shift, the change in the balance of power should not be that one which upsets the system to the extent that the system will fight back and beat the people.
Thank you very much. We have a bit of time. Do you want to open up for questions? Are there any questions from the audience? Otherwise, you can ask questions directly to the panelists.
Maybe Natalia, it's not a question. I just wanted to make a follow-up comment on what you were asking Melanie with regard to the role of the oceans in agroecology. Research is indicating to us that oceans are the next frontier of economic development, in the sense that even as we speak now, oceans contribute to more than a half of the oxygen that we breathe in. And that the terrestrial activities, the things we do on land, affect the health of the oceans. And that therefore means that for those of us who are promoting and pursuing agroecology, we are actually helping to keep the health of the oceans, the safety of the oceans, and in return, we'll get much more from the oceans. Therefore, when we stop using chemicals in our agriculture, when we stop poor land management practices that lead to soil erosion and siltation of the seas, the rivers, and the oceans, those agroecological practices, the sum total of all their benefits, make ocean life to be much better, and that therefore makes it easier for us to get much more from the ocean. So there is indeed a very strong link, positive link between agroecology and the blue economy, as she put it.
Well, it was nice that throughout the whole COP16, we have seen many events on agroecology. We've seen in more than one event how agroecology is definitely, we do have the evidence to prove that agroecology can be a strategy of biodiversity conservation. And as you very correctly say, Evans, it's also a systemic approach that allows us to see not only production, but also conservation, consumption, oceans. So I see, Melanie, that you wanted to follow up with a comment.
Yeah. For complementing the idea, I want to say that the fishing communities are vulnerable for the triple planetary crisis, for the loss of biodiversity, climate change, and pollution. And when we talk about biodiversity, fishing communities are experiencing multiply impacts, like the loss of marine and coastal biodiversity and the migration species. Yeah, migration species. And this is a problem, a big problem for our communities, because in Colombia, the fishing communities are allowed to fish in the 2 nautical miles. And if we have migration species, they can fish. They cannot fish. Yeah. Because they have a small boats, so they can go far from the shore. And we identify in the organization different activities that cause that kind of impacts, like offshore extraction activities, poor constructions, unsustainable tourism, foreign illegal fishing. Is correct?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. And maybe if you would like to know more about it, the Center for Marine Justice publicate a document. The name is Documentos Azules, in English, blue documents. And in this publication, we have different academic articles about these topics.
Thank you. Pavel, do you want to add some points to your...
Yes, thank you. I want to add when we are talking on the value chain. So youth could be the youth who are not interested to stay in their farming. So they could be a very good entrepreneur. So and they can introduce through their innovative ideas the each and every agri-food product in the market to the consumer. And I think the quote-unquote agriculture garbage could be the good product. Is a make the good added the new values in our agri-food system. And also I want to say is something. If we include the traditional knowledge or also the food values and also the value chain and the other things, so we need to clear our standpoint on some of the obligations and the protocols. So what is in the CBD instrument? So there is the Article 8J. So on the traditional knowledge and the innovations and the practices, so it should be included in every country's NBSAPs, and also agroecology is included in a principle in every country's NBSAPs, and also youth should be included in the national food agri products system in every national countries. So it could be a good window to strengthen our agricultural and also the agroecological journey, because in the time of the climate crisis, it is proved that the indigenous people, the local community, women, they're proving the agroecology only the true solution. So if we stop the different kind of the corporate driven false solution, we need to strengthen the agroecological movement in the ground. So thank you.
Well, Pavel just reminded me that I forgot to introduce myself. My name is Natalia Reyes. I am a part of the team in the Global Alliance for the Future of Food. And we have launched during this COP16 report that is called Boosting Biodiversity Through Agroecology. And it's precisely the point that you are making. So if you are interested in getting a hold of the report, you can go to our website or just approach me after this session. I